first vintage guitar I ever owned was a 1964 Guild D40. It was so cool. Had this really cool neck, huge crown, headstock, and it was terribly ugly. Had it been just horribly refinished with like thick brush on shellac, and it like over the bridge, over the fretboard extension, it was rough, but I loved that guitar. I bought it for $400 in 2006, the fall of 2005. And it just meant the world to me. I took it everywhere. I took it to Nashville with me a couple times, and it just lived with me. I put a Fishman Matrix Infinity pickup in it, and I played it, but it had really high action. It needed a neck reset. But because of just so much damage and all that stuff to it, it never could actually turn into a guitar that would be reliable and play really well. And if you know me, and if you know this channel, you know that I love Guild guitars. I bought a Guild M20 about a year and a half ago, and that guitar is wonderful and just plays really great. And I actually have this amazing little miniature. One of my YouTube subscribers and a friend, Ed, has made this just super cool guitar. It is meticulously well built. It is just this tiny little model he's made. He sculpted every piece of it. He actually copied my capo. He copied my wire cutters. It is just a perfectly captured, it even has the same serial number as mine. It is so cool. And so from early on in my life, I have just loved Guild guitars. There's something about their brand and their style and their sound and their ethic, just that unrelenting, determined, never give up attitude has just been so wonderful to me and so compelling. And so whenever I get a chance to play any Guild, I do it. I jump on it. I love them. And right now, it's cool. Guild has just relaunched their American-made guitars. Now, the relaunched is relative. They've been around for a couple of years, but now they're made in California instead of being made on the East Coast. But I think that these new Guilds, like this D-55, it has 100% completely come back into its own. This is Guild as it was meant to be, which is really exciting as just a big fanboy. So Guild sent me this D-55 to check out. This one is used. It's been around for a couple years. This one has been playing with Alicia Keys in her band. So this is the top of the line. This is the flagship. The D-55, everything about this guitar is just absolutely cool and the best. Sitka spruce on the top, East Indian rosewood on the back and sides. It's a multiple piece neck with mahogany and maple. And there is binding and abalone everywhere. There is amazing double binding on the fingerboard. And all of that, I mean, it culminates in this is a prestige level guitar. This is absolutely on par with all of the iconics. And for me, in a couple ways, this guitar is just cooler and better spec'd than a D28, than a Hummingbird, than a J45, than a Taylor 810. There is no comparison in a few ways on this guitar. So with all of that said, I do want to jump into a 3-question gear review for my take on the relatively new D-55. What's good about this thing, what's bad about this thing, and if you're in the market, should you buy one of these? I love that this guitar has been used, especially, you know, in Alicia Keys. This has been run through the paces in an actual pro musician level. I mean, higher than I've ever played. But this guitar has stood the test of, you know, being on the road, being in tour cases, flying around the world. So the first thing for me, what is good about this guitar is that it is so stunning to look at. Everything about this, every inch of this guitar has something interesting and beautiful and thoughtful. And you can tell that this guitar has just been really thoroughly critiqued, designed, and captured. They've captured the original D-55s. And so that's, I mean, the most amazing fact about Cordoba owning Guild is how hard they've worked and how much due diligence they have put in to, I mean, completely capture the feel and the vibe of old Guilds. The neck shape on this, it is a Guild neck shape, and I don't know how to explain it. It does not feel like a Martin, doesn't feel like a Gibson or a Taylor. It is this kind of low U shape that is just so iconically Guild, and I love it. It hits all of the spots in my heart, remembering my D40 from 1964. It's really cool. The other thing they really nailed is the headstock, that full crown headstock. I love just this, makes my heart so happy. On the back, it's the Goto gold tuners. These are the 700 series, I believe. They are really tight. They work really well. All along the fingerboard is just amazing abalone in the big blocks. And so that's where, like, this guitar is not meant to compete against a D28. They're going after a D45 with this. And if you look at the pricing for a D45 compared to this is still half the price. These are $38.99 for the E with the LR Baggs. I think, yeah, so $3,500 to $3,800 ballpark. But this guitar is absolutely coming to play. Other things that I really like about this guitar, the scale length. So this guitar doesn't sound like a D28 or a big Rosewood Dreadnought. It sounds to my ears and it feels to my hands much more like a Gibson Jumbo, particularly a maple back and sides. That doesn't mean that it's punchy and doesn't have enough bass. This has a very full bass and a very bloomy tone, but it doesn't feel like this, like I'm gonna jump in your face, that you know, that sometimes big Rosewood Dreadnoughts can be really aggressive in just their EQ as they come at you. This guitar feels very balanced and sweet and thoughtful. One of the things that is the most interesting is the scale length. This is a 25 and 5/8" scale length. So this is a long scale guitar. It is not a Gibson or a Martin scale length. And I think that's what this guitar has thrown me just a little bit. Like, I've been trying to figure out what is so different about this. Why does it feel so different in my hands? And I think that's a big chunk of it. I think the big part is just, it's just a little longer. And with that, the strings feel a little tighter. And I also think it makes the guitar a little more dynamic. Strings feel a little tighter and everything feels a little more clear and a little more bloomy. And when I say bloomy, I mean you feel, even in the higher strings, you feel it through the whole guitar, and it is a subtle approach. It doesn't just like ice pick jump to your ears. It just, in full warmth and bloom, it presents itself. So I really cannot say how many things I like about this guitar. I love the pickup in this. This is absolutely a professional sounding guitar, both acoustically and with the pickup. Sounds like the guitar, and it sounds wonderful and boomy. You can get it really loud. It doesn't feed back until you are preposterously loud, and it's very seamless. Like, you can see it a little bit in the sound hole there, but it is not a big obnoxious thing. I love that there is no hole in the side here, and then it's just an output jack like normal. Other things that I love is just the double binding everywhere. Front, back, sides, the heel cap, all around the headstock. Headstock binding is awesome. I also love this inlay on the headstock. So all that to say, this is a just stunningly beautiful thing. It sounds really good. It also plays really, really wonderfully. Now, with all that said, I do have a couple things to say that aren't as good about this guitar. Now, I think the first one for me is the tone is not what you would expect if you're looking at guitars in this same spec. If you're looking for Sitka spruce, red spruce binding, East Indian rosewood back and sides, you would expect big, boomy, in-your-face bluegrass guitar. This guitar, I don't think, would be right for a bluegrass player. I think the scale length might be a little long. So the reality is this guitar is not for everybody. But for people that it is for, it is so dead on. Yeah, let me really look at this thing and think about this thing as to what you might not be into. I think as the more I think about it, this guitar is full-blown going for a Martin D-55 kind of spec. And it's priced noticeably more expensive. So it's $700 more than a Martin D-28. And so there has to be a comparison or at least a conversation about those two guitars in relation to each other. D-28s are iconic and pretty ubiquitous. They're most everywhere. If you're going to buy a Rosewood Dreadnought, chances are you're going to get a D-28. And Guilds are not ubiquitous. They're really amazing to see, but they are fairly rare. And that's kind of what's always been cool about them, is that they are the best pick that most people don't make. But, you know, anyway. So, all that to say, it's a lot of money. Now, it is an American-made guitar with top specs, amazing, cool stuff about it. Oh, one thing I totally missed earlier. This guitar, one way in which it is different is that this is a radius top. It's a 30-inch radius on the top. So you would not see it when you look at the guitar, but similar to Huss and Dalton and a few other builders, what they have found is that if you can have a radius to the top of the guitar, you will get much more volume, much more tone. It just sounds so much better. It's just a subtle, small detail, but that shows that modern Guild is way more in tune with proper boutique guitar construction. So, closing out the thoughts on what's bad about this. This is considerably more expensive than a D28, and they're really hard to find. So it could be difficult for people to justify that difference. Now, what I would say is that this isn't going after a 28. This is going after a 41, a 42. And so with that, the big inlays, all of that, I mean, this guitar is aimed to be an eye catcher. And so as far as it's priced, I think this is an incredibly fair price, but this is a more expensive guitar than most anyone will ever own. Yeah. Now, as I come down, I am on the list to buy one of these when they release more in September. And I'm still on the fence whether I'm going to use that option or not. So the way it works in the Guild world is I'm on the list and I get to choose when the guitars are ready. And actually I would get it and get to have it for a couple days before I make my mind up. So I will get this, like I'm in line to get this at artist pricing. I'm on the fence as I've played it for enough because it sounds very Gibson jumbo-y and that's not really my vibe. But I still find myself picking this guitar up and playing it, and I want to be seen playing this guitar, and that's the thing with this guitar is this is kind of like the really clever choice in a car. This is the guy that is driving a really tasteful Mercedes SL, like a coupe, a drop top. You know, they're not the most expensive, and they're not everywhere, but they are cool. And the fact that you drive that car shows that you know what you're talking about. That's where this guitar lives. So if you show up with a Guild D-55, people who know about guitars are going to know that you know what you're talking about and that you like really cool, really unique guitars. So all that to say, I think that for the people that this guitar is right for, it is so right. And for people that, like, there are plenty of people that will not get this, and that's fine. But I find myself probably in that smaller group of, like, this thing is just freaking cool. So, thanks for watching this video. I love this guitar. And I'm going to hang in. Make sure you're subscribed, and you see in a couple months if I use my option to buy one of these in September. But until then, I'm going to play this as long as Guild will let me. It is just a stunningly beautiful guitar to look at, and it sounds really cool. So thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy. I'm the Guitar Hunter. Make sure you subscribe down below. Go and fill the world with music and friendship. That's what good guitars do. Daddy worked like a mule mine in Pike County coal. I'll get